Hi, welcome to SceneDaily.com. I'm Kenny Bruce. I'm joined today by Lee Montgomery, Jim Duff. Guys, we had 3 races this weekend, but the big race, the Cup race, was at Infineon Raceway in Sonoma. We had double file restarts on a road course for the first time. We also had Richard Petty returning to victory lane. Jim, any thoughts as you
I thought
the
double file restarts were tremendous because instead of battling with lapped cars there in the closing laps when we did have a number of cautions, we actually had the first 4 cars were in the first 2 rows. We had guys diving trying to get first from 4th place. That just would not have happened under the old format where you would have had a number of lap down cars between 1st and 4th. We actually had Tony Stewart was close to Kasey Kahne there in the closing laps, and I thought it was I think NASCAR has made a good move on this call.
Lee?
Well, Jim mentioned that you both mentioned that Richard Petty was in victory lane, and while I'm thrilled for Richard being a long-time kind of Petty guy, it's not the same thing to me personally as if a Petty Enterprises car, if the 43 had gone to victory lane. You know, again, I'm happy for Richard, but he's just a small part of that team now, and you know, for Kahne to win was great on a road course because he's been frankly terrible at Sonoma in the past. So
well, he's qualified well. He just hasn't had the results at the end of the race, and I think we saw yesterday he was strong throughout. While we had a typical road course race with a lot of strategies going on, and we had guys at the front at some of the race, and towards the back we had Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon with penalties that dropped them way back in the field, and yet Johnson was there at the end to claim 4th, and I believe it was 4th, and Gordon got 9th. So I thought we saw a lot of different things, which for road course fans makes that kind of racing exciting. Now, if you're used to the same thing every weekend and you want to see the top 5 cars running in the top 5 spots all day, you didn't see that. But to Lee's point about Richard Petty, even Richard acknowledged after it was all over that it was like going to victory lane for the first time instead of after a long career there.
Yeah, that's kind of impressive for somebody that's been to victory lane as many times as that guy has. As far as the double file restarts, I thought it was kind of interesting that not all of the drivers were really happy with the fact that all of a sudden we have the double file restarts. I know you had a couple of guys that said yesterday that it was chaos on some of those restarts, but you know, it's chaos whether they do the format the way it is now or whether they did it the other way. I think the fact that it was on a road course was what created a whole lot of that. Lee, you were in Milwaukee this weekend where we had 2 other we had a nationwide race and a Camping World Truck Series race. Anything come out of that?
Well, you know, Ron Hornaday won the Camping World Truck race on his 51st birthday, although he didn't say how old he was. He just said he was in his 50s, and he moved on from there. Then Carl Edwards came in from Sonoma and dominated, or he didn't dominate, Kyle Busch actually dominated the race, who also came in from Sonoma, which makes to an interesting point, what's the purpose of even having practice for those guys if they just come and dominate? It's maybe a little embarrassing to some of the guys. I know Brad Keselowski finished in the top 5, and he was a little frustrated that, you know, he got to practice all day in his own car and those other 2 guys didn't, and he ended up, you know, losing to him. So that's got to be a little frustrating.
Is it just a case of men among boys when you look at Kyle and Carl work their way through the field as they did? I mean, I thought they showed more patience than I would have expected in the early going, and actually in the early going we did get to see some nationwide only drivers up front, and it was, you know, it was interesting, but at the same time you were watching Carl and Kyle slice their way through the field.
Milwaukee's not an easy track to pass on, a flat 1 mile, so they were being exceptionally patient. I thought maybe there was, you know, maybe they didn't have the cars like they wanted them, and they worked on them throughout the day and got better. Again, another, you know, Kyle Busch led the most laps for the 8th consecutive race, which is just amazing to me. The other news that came out of the weekend, NASCAR confirmed that it's possible the car tomorrow could be used in select races in 2010 on the super speedways and road courses in the Nationwide Series. Some team owners are like, okay, that's fine, we can live with that. Some others don't like it. Some others don't want to ever see the car tomorrow in the series, but you know, I think NASCAR spent a lot of money and time and effort with this car. It's safer, it's not going to be the same as a Cup car, so I think we're going to see that next year at some point.
Do we know what those cars are going to be called yet? Wasn't there some talk again of calling them Mustangs and
Yeah.
Camaros?
Well, I think Ford's the only one that said they want a pony car.
Right.
Chevrolet, I think it's just going to be the Impala. Toyota's probably going to be the Camry, and Dodge, don't know what Dodge is going to call it at this point. It was going to be a Challenger, but now I don't know, with everything's up in the air there.
Okay, so that's it for this week. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion and come back to see us again.